A single moment changes everything. A door opens that was never supposed to open again. And in that silence, a heartbeat everyone thought was gone forever begins to echo through Heartland. This isn't just a return. It's the kind of moment that reopens old wounds, revives buried hope, and forces a family to face the one truth they were never ready to accept. Borden is back, and nothing will ever be the same again. Heartland has always been a place where time moves gently on the surface, but underneath, emotions linger far longer than anyone admits. Long before Borden's shocking return, his presence was already everywhere. In the quiet mornings at the ranch, in the empty chair at the dinner table, in the way Amy learned to breathe through the pain and keep going, even when every step forward felt like a betrayal of the love she lost. Heartland didn't forget Ty. It learned how to live around the shape he left behind. Season 20 opens with a feeling that is hard to name. Life at the ranch looks stable, the horses are cared for, the family routines continue. Conversations happen, smiles appear when they're needed. But there is a weight beneath it all, a sense that something unfinished is still waiting for its moment. Amy is stronger now, more grounded, more capable than ever. She has become the pillar everyone leans on. Yet behind her calm strength is a guarded distance, like a door she keeps firmly closed because she knows what happens when it opens. Loving Ty once gave her everything. Losing him took almost everything back. Lindy has grown up in a world shaped by stories instead of memories. She knows her father through photographs, quiet mentions, and the way adults sometimes stop talking when she walks into the room. She feels his absence without fully understanding it. There is a curiosity inside her, an unspoken sense that something important is missing, even if she can't explain why. Heartland raised her with love, but love alone can't replace the presence of a parent she never truly knew. Jack watches all of this with the eyes of a man who has seen generations rise, fall, and find their way back home. He doesn't speak often about Ty, but when he does, his words carry weight. Ty wasn't just family, he was proof that broken people could become whole again. Jack knows that grief doesn't disappear with time. It settles in, changes shape, and becomes part of the land itself. And even now, he senses that something is shifting, like the calm before a storm no one is prepared for. Lou feels it too. She tries to manage everything, to keep the family steady and protected, but she has seen Amy's darkest moments. She remembers the nights when strength was just an act and survival was the only goal. That's why Lou fears change more than she admits, because change means reopening doors that were closed for a reason. It means risking the fragile balance Amy fought so hard to build. Tim hides behind humor and sarcasm, pretending that the past doesn't still haunt him. But he knows the cost of loss. He saw what Ty's absence did to this family, and he carries guilt for not being able to fix it. For Tim, emotions are dangerous territory, and hope is something he approaches carefully because he knows how painful it can be when it's taken away. What makes Ty's return so powerful is not the shock itself, but the way Heartland prepares us for it emotionally. The story doesn't rush. It reminds us of everything that was lost before daring to give anything back. It shows us a family that learned how to survive without answers, without closure, and without the man who once held them together in ways they didn't fully realize until he was gone. By the time the sense of change becomes impossible to ignore, it doesn't feel random or forced. It feels inevitable, like a promise made long ago is finally ready to be kept. Heartland isn't asking whether the family is ready for Ty to return. It's asking whether love that never truly died can survive being reborn. And somewhere, just beyond what anyone expects, the past is about to step into the present and demand to be seen. The return doesn't arrive with answers. It arrives with silence, the kind of silence that feels too heavy to belong to an ordinary day. At Heartland, there are moments when everything seems to pause, as if the land itself is holding its breath. This is one of those moments. Nothing looks different at first, yet everything feels wrong in the most unsettling way. The air is thicker, time stretches. And somewhere deep inside Amy, a feeling she buried long ago begins to stir. Amy has learned to trust her instincts, especially the uncomfortable ones. They kept her alive when grief threatened to swallow her whole. And now, without knowing why, that same instinct tells her that something is about to change. Not in a small way, not in a manageable way, but in the kind of way that reshapes your life, whether you are ready or not. She feels it before she understands it, a tightness in her chest, a breath caught halfway, a memory pressing against the walls she built around her heart. When Amy finally sees Ty, her mind refuses to accept what her eyes are telling her. For a moment, she believes grief has finally broken through her control, that this is just another cruel trick of memory, another reminder of what she lost. But Ty doesn't fade. He doesn't disappear when she blinks. He stands there, real and impossibly familiar, carrying the weight of years that were stolen from both of them. Amy doesn't run to him. She doesn't speak. She freezes. Because this is not the reunion she ever allowed herself to imagine. She mourned Ty. She buried him in her heart. She learned how to survive without him because she had no other choice. Seeing him alive forces her to face the one thing she never prepared for. Hope, returning after grief, has already rewritten who you are. Ty's face tells a story before he says a single word. There is regret there. Fear. Love that never left. And something else, too. Uncertainty. Because Ty knows that coming back doesn't erase the pain he caused by being gone. He knows that standing in front of Amy means asking her to relive the worst moments of her life. And still, he is there. Because staying away became impossible. The shock ripples outward through the family. Jack sees Ty and doesn't move at first. His expression hardens. Not with anger, but with disbelief shaped by years of loss. Jack has buried too many people to trust miracles easily, but when Ty finally meets his eyes, something softens. Not because Jack understands how this happened, but because he understands something more important. That love doesn't disappear just because time passes, and that some bonds are stronger than logic. Lindy's reaction is different. She doesn't carry the same history, the same pain, or the same expectations. She feels something she can't explain. A pull. A sense of recognition that goes deeper than memory. When she looks at Ty, she doesn't see a ghost or a miracle. She sees someone who matters. Someone who feels like he belongs. And that simple, instinctive connection hits harder than any emotional speech ever could. Lou's first instinct is protection. Her eyes move immediately to Amy, scanning her sister's face for signs of collapse. Lou doesn't rush into celebration. She doesn't smile. She feels relief, yes, but it's tangled with fear. Because Lou knows what it took for Amy to survive Ty's absence, and she knows how dangerous it is to reopen a wound that never fully healed. Her mind fills with questions she doesn't want to ask, but knows must be answered. Tim reacts the only way he knows how at first, with humor that lands awkwardly in the heavy silence. He tries to downplay the moment, to keep it from becoming too real too fast, but his voice cracks, his eyes linger, and it becomes clear that the jokes are just a shield. Because beneath them is a man who watched his daughter suffer and felt powerless to stop it. What makes this moment unbearable and beautiful at the same time is that no one knows what to do next. There is no script for this kind of return, no right reaction, no clear path forward. Ty isn't stepping back into the life he left behind. He's stepping into a life that moved on without him, shaped by loss, resilience, and quiet survival. Amy finally speaks, but her voice is barely steady. She doesn't ask where he's been. She doesn't ask why he's alive. She asks the only question that matters to her in that moment. Is this real? Because believing again feels more dangerous than heartbreak ever did. Ty answers her with honesty, not explanations. He tells her he's here, that he never stopped loving her, that coming back wasn't easy, but staying away was harder. This return doesn't feel triumphant. It feels fragile, like glass held together by hope and fear in equal measure. And everyone in that room understands one thing clearly. This isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a new chapter written on top of scars that never fully faded. Heartland doesn't rush to comfort the audience. It lets the tension sit. It lets the emotions breathe. Because the true impact of Ty's return isn't in the shock itself. It's in what happens after. In the conversations that must now take place, in the trust that must be rebuilt, and in the question no one is brave enough to ask out loud yet. Can love survive coming back from the dead? The real weight of Ty's return doesn't settle in the moment he appears. It settles afterward when the noise fades and silence takes its place. When everyone realizes that shock is temporary, but truth is unavoidable. At Heartland, silence has always been honest. And now, it demands answers. Not loudly, not angrily, but with a quiet pressure that can't be ignored. Amy and Ty find themselves alone, not because the family pushes them together, but because there is nowhere else either of them can go. This is the conversation both of them feared more than the reunion itself. Seeing each other was overwhelming. Talking means reopening everything they worked so hard to survive. Every memory, every unanswered question, every night Amy cried without letting anyone see. Every day Ty lived knowing he was missing a life he never stopped loving. Ty speaks first, not because he has the right words, but because silence would feel like running away again. His voice isn't confident. It's careful, layered with guilt and vulnerability. He doesn't try to justify his absence. He doesn't rush into explanations. He starts with the truth that hurts the most. He says he knows coming back doesn't undo the pain. He knows Amy rebuilt her life piece by piece while he was gone. And he knows that loving him again might feel like risking everything she fought to protect. Amy listens without interrupting. Her face doesn't show anger, but it doesn't show relief either. What she feels is something more complicated. Confusion, fear, and a deep, aching sadness for the version of herself that once believed this moment would never come. When she finally speaks, her words aren't dramatic. They're raw and restrained, shaped by years of emotional control. She talks about survival, about waking up every day and choosing to keep going because Lindy needed her, about learning how to be strong because there was no alternative. She admits that part of her never stopped loving Ty, but another part learned how to live without him because hope was too painful to hold on to. What makes this conversation powerful is that there is no villain. No one is fully right. No one is fully wrong. Ty admits that being gone wasn't just about circumstances. It was about fear. Fear of hurting the people he loved. Fear of facing the consequences of returning. Fear of stepping back into a life that moved on without him. Amy admits that strength came at a cost, that shutting down parts of her heart helped her survive, but also left her feeling disconnected from the life she once imagined. Their words don't fix anything. They aren't meant to. This isn't about closure. It's about honesty, about finally saying the things that were swallowed by grief and time. Ty apologizes, not expecting forgiveness, but because Amy deserves to hear it. Amy doesn't forgive him instantly, not because she doesn't love him, but because forgiveness is a process, not a moment. Outside that conversation, the rest of the family struggles with their own emotions. Jack keeps his distance, not out of coldness, but respect. He knows that some conversations don't need an audience. Still, the weight of Ty's return presses heavily on him. Jack reflects on how many times he's seen life take unexpected turns. He understands that love is rarely simple and that the hardest journeys are often the ones that bring people back home. He is prepared to welcome Ty again, but only if Ty understands what Heartland truly means. Commitment, presence, and staying even when it's difficult. Lou can't sit with uncertainty for long. Her need for answers pushes her into difficult territory. When she finally speaks with Ty, her words come fast and unfiltered. She isn't cruel, but she is direct. She asks the questions everyone else is avoiding. Why now? Why come back after so much time? What guarantees does he have that this won't happen again? Lou isn't speaking from anger. She's speaking from love. From years of watching her sister suffer in silence, Ty doesn't push back. He accepts her anger because he knows it's earned. And for the first time, Lou sees something she didn't expect. Accountability. Tim's confrontation with Ty is quieter, but no less intense. Without the jokes, without the sarcasm, Tim admits how helpless he felt watching Amy fall apart. He admits that part of him resented Ty, not for leaving, but for being the one Amy never stopped loving. Ty listens, knowing that pain shared honestly is better than silence filled with resentment. This exchange doesn't end with resolution. It ends with understanding. And for Tim, that is rare and meaningful. Lindy's presence weaves through all of this like a quiet reminder of what's truly at stake. She senses the tension, even if she doesn't fully understand it. Her instinctive connection to Ty complicates everything. Because every time Amy sees Lindy smile at him, she's reminded that love isn't just about the past, it's about the future too. A future that now feels possible and terrifying at the same time. By the end of these conversations, nothing feels settled. And that's exactly the point. Heartland doesn't pretend that love conquers all in an instant. It shows us that real healing is uncomfortable, that truth can hurt more than silence, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stay present when walking away would be easier. Ty's return doesn't restore what was lost. It challenges everyone to decide what they're willing to rebuild. And as night settles over the ranch, one thing becomes painfully clear. The hardest part of coming home isn't arriving. It's earning your place again. Morning arrives at Heartland, but it doesn't bring clarity. It brings reality. The shock of Ty's return has faded just enough for the weight of it to truly settle in. Everyone wakes up knowing that nothing can go back to the way it was, yet no one is sure what the new normal is supposed to look like. The ranch feels familiar, but emotionally, it's like learning how to walk on ground that might give way at any moment. Amy moves through the day with quiet focus. To anyone watching, she looks composed, capable, in control. But inside, every emotion is colliding at once. Love, fear, anger, hope, and exhaustion fight for space in her chest. She wants to believe in this second chance, but she's terrified of what belief might cost her if it's taken away again. Amy has spent years building walls not to keep people out, but to keep herself standing. Ty's presence threatens to undo those walls, and part of her resists not because she doesn't love him, but because she remembers how deeply it hurt when she lost him. Ty watches her carefully, aware that every step he takes matters. He doesn't push. He doesn't demand reassurance or forgiveness. He understands now that coming back doesn't mean being welcomed immediately. It means proving, through patience and consistency, that he's willing to stay. Ty feels the weight of everything he missed, the everyday moments, the growth, the pain Amy carried alone, the bond Lindy formed with everyone else in his absence. He knows he can't reclaim lost time, but he hopes he can be present enough to make the future count. Jack observes the family with the quiet wisdom that comes from a lifetime of loving and losing. He sees Amy's struggle, Ty's restraint, and the tension pulling at the edges of every interaction. Jack doesn't intervene unless he has to. He believes people reveal who they are in moments like these. And what he sees in Ty isn't the man who left, but someone humbled by absence and shaped by regret. Still, Jack waits, because trust, once broken, has to be rebuilt slowly. Lou remains cautious. She doesn't hide her concern, and she doesn't apologize for it. Her protectiveness is sharp, especially when it comes to Amy and Lindy. Lou watches Ty closely, analyzing his words, his tone, his choices. She's not looking for perfection. She's looking for commitment. She wants to know that this return isn't temporary, that it won't end in another goodbye that Amy won't survive twice. Yet beneath Lou's guarded exterior, there is hope she's afraid to admit. Hope that maybe, this time, her sister won't have to be strong alone. Tim continues to struggle with his emotions, swinging between relief and resentment. He wants to be happy for Amy. He truly does. But part of him still aches for the years that were lost, the moments that can never be given back. Tim expresses himself awkwardly, sometimes saying the wrong thing, sometimes retreating behind sarcasm. But when it matters, his love for his family is unmistakable. He wants Ty to succeed, not for Ty's sake, but for Amy and Lindy's future. Lindy becomes the quiet center of everything. She doesn't understand all the tension, but she feels the shift. Her curiosity about Ty grows, and with it, a sense of connection that surprises everyone. She asks simple questions, honest ones, and Ty answers them without hesitation. Their interactions are gentle, cautious, and deeply emotional. Because in Lindy's eyes, Ty isn't a man who disappeared. He's someone new, someone she's discovering for the first time. And for Ty, every moment with her is both a gift and a reminder of what he lost. As the family navigates this emotional landscape, one truth becomes clear. Ty's return doesn't just affect Amy, it affects everyone. Old wounds resurface, unspoken fears rise to the surface, but so does something else. Possibility. The possibility that healing doesn't mean erasing the past, but learning how to carry it together. Heartland has always been about family, not because it's perfect, but because it endures. And now, that endurance is being tested in a new way. The family must decide whether they are willing to risk pain again in exchange for love, whether they can allow hope back into a space that grief once claimed as its own. As evening approaches, there is no dramatic resolution, no clear answers, just a shared understanding that whatever comes next will require patience, honesty, and courage from everyone involved. Ty's return has reopened the story of Heartland, not as it was, but as it could become. And standing on that unsteady ground, the family faces the hardest question of all. And at Heartland, that choice has always been everything.